Did you know that more than 70% of American travelers report being treated differently when abroad, and most of the time it's not in a positive way? From chilly stares at restaurants to awkward questions at local markets, and in some extreme cases even outright hostility, travelers from the United States are noticing a shift in how they're received around the world. From visible protests in cities like Mexico City to a rise in anti-American sentiment across Europe, the question is, why is the experience of American tourists deteriorating in 2025? What's changed, and is this a temporary trend or something more permanent? Before we explore the reasons behind this global shift, hit that like button and subscribe. This video isn't just a travel guide, it's a closer look at a changing reality for American travelers worldwide. In the past, American tourists were often seen as welcomed guests. Now, in 2025, it's clear that public perception is changing. Across social media platforms like Reddit and TikTok, moments of so-called tourist misbehavior are captured, shared, and ridiculed. In England, at a site linked to King Arthur legends, an American visitor asked, "Where's the castle?" A comment that spread across travel forums as a symbol of cultural ignorance. At Stonehenge, an American parent encouraged their child to climb on the ancient stones despite clear warnings against it. In France, tourists have been recorded asking awkward, tone-deaf questions to locals, further feeding the narrative of the entitled American. These incidents may seem minor, but they're part of a larger online culture that highlights behavioral patterns rather than isolated mistakes. The stereotype of the loud, unaware American tourist is back in the spotlight, now amplified through global digital platforms. This is more than just embarrassment. It's shaping a perception. Each social media post contributes to a growing impression. Americans abroad are often entitled culturally unaware and insensitive. The response to American tourists isn't confined to online commentary. Around the world, communities are beginning to voice their frustration openly. In Mexico City, residents in neighborhoods like Condesa and Roma, where American expats and remote workers are numerous, staged protests outside the US Embassy with slogans like "Gringos, stop taking our homes." Airbnb properties have been defaced with anti-American messages, signaling local resentment toward foreign visitors. In Spain, cities like Mallorca face almost weekly demonstrations against overtourism, prompting the US Embassy to issue advisories for travelers to avoid large gatherings. These reactions are not spontaneous, they are organized, emotional, and increasingly frequent. When diplomatic offices begin issuing warnings, the concern is no longer just safety, it's a reputation issue for American travelers, highlighting the delicate position they occupy abroad. A significant part of the backlash stems from Americans traveling without adapting to local customs. In many cases, the behavior isn't malicious, it's simply unaware, but the impact can be substantial. In Kyoto, Japan, local authorities in the historic Gion district imposed restrictions on tourists entering certain alleys due to harassment of geishas and repeated photo violations. Across Thailand and the Middle East, reports emerge of visitors ignoring dress codes and walking into religious sites disrespectfully. In Vietnam, an American tourist wore a t-shirt emblazoned with guns and the phrase "Freedom the American Way" while visiting a museum documenting the consequences of the US-led war. The photo went viral as an example of tone-deaf behavior. Small missteps, even when unintentional, create lasting impressions. It's not just about visiting a country, it's about how you show up and respect local norms. American travelers often carry the weight of their country's global reputation. In 2025, the world's perception of the United States is shifting, and tourists are indirectly affected. In Canada, only 19% of citizens believe the US will have a positive influence internationally, a historic low for America's neighbor. In Germany, favorability has dropped sharply following political developments. Surprisingly, China now enjoys a more positive perception in many countries compared to the United States, a reversal that would have been unlikely just a few years ago. Travelers are advised to avoid wearing politically charged clothing or discussing controversial topics. Being mindful of language and tone is important. Some even claim to be Canadian to avoid tension. Being American is no longer an automatic icebreaker. In many cases, it prompts judgment or cautious responses. Tourists are now representing a country that faces scrutiny globally, making cultural sensitivity more critical than ever. The perception shift isn't just social, it's now reflected in international travel policies. Brazil reinstated visa requirements for US travelers in 2025 after years of visa-free access. Across Europe, the long-delayed ETIAS system requires Americans to apply before entering. The UK now mandates pre-authorization before Americans can visit. Extra screenings and paperwork may seem administrative, but they reveal a broader decline in trust. Travelers accustomed to smooth, welcoming entry now face bureaucracy that reflects skepticism toward American visitors. Economic benefits from tourism often come at a hidden cost: the displacement of local communities and erosion of culture. Cities like Lisbon, Tulum, and Athens have seen neighborhoods transformed for tourists' convenience. Local cafes and markets are increasingly replaced by Instagram-friendly spots or Airbnbs, catering to high-spending visitors from cities like New York and Los Angeles. Residents report that while tourism brings money, it also increases living costs, reduces long-term housing availability, and alters cultural identity. For locals, the presence of American tourists can feel less like shared opportunity and more like gradual displacement. The world isn't rejecting Americans, they're rejecting behaviors that come across as inconsiderate or tone-deaf. Dress appropriately for local norms and avoid overly political attire. Avoid loud debates on sensitive topics and be mindful of cultural cues. Listen actively, observe and adapt to the environment rather than expecting it to adjust for you. Thoughtful travelers who approach foreign cultures with humility and respect continue to be welcomed warmly. Nationality is secondary. Behavior and awareness matter most. If you've had experiences abroad, good, bad, or surprising, share them in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights about travel and global culture.